skipper. That was huge from Jared Roughhead. They're out here now, the Hawks.
Short pass, McAvoy gave to Mitchell, 2 minutes left.
Tyrone Vickery kicks to half forward. The skipper has marked Roughhead. He's kicked it from 51 metres. And Jared Roughhead has kicked an incredible goal.
1:30 on the clock. Roughhead, he'll kick from 50. It'll take his best.
Can the skipper put them in front with anything?
What a kick from Roughhead! Jared Roughhead with the huge roost from outside 50. Under all the circumstance, all the duress that he's been through and this club has been through this year, he stands tall and delivers what could be a knockout blow.
That was his best moment as captain, Jared Roughhead. Did it put a smile on your face, Jordan?
Very good.
Did you get
Did
emotional?
well. I didn't get emotional. He actually came over for dinner last night and walked in with that celebration through the door.
What was he yelling out as he walked in?
Very good.
Serious, couldn't believe it.
It doesn't surprise me.
Jack, hello.
It was a great
Jared.
moment, Jack, wasn't it?
It was. It was a very good moment in a very pivotal moment in a pretty
big
important game. Yeah.
There was a lot of byplay between old friends.
It was. I asked a question, did Clarko razz them up a little bit, but Ruffy seemed to think it was two ways. So, I mean, that's what the big games are about. I mean, there's always niggle. Chris Judd wrote a really good article today. There's always subplots to a massive game like this, and it had everything. It was finals-like.
Most importantly, what did you have for dinner?
I went to a little Italian place around the corner.
Yeah.
Which side would you pick out of those two? Who were you siding with now?
Or as in a wrestle, or
Yeah, in a wrestle.
We're not promoting fighting, Jack.
No, that's what
I
I
was more
getting
talking
at.
about who was in the right and who's in the wrong.
Oh, Bud would probably be the stronger of the two.
Yeah.
Ruffy would never be in the wrong.
So we saw Jesse Hogan return to Melbourne today. So just put us inside the club as he makes his return.
Yeah, well, unfortunately we weren't there today, so we couldn't actually share that moment with Jesse. But yeah, he's come back to Melbourne and he seems to be in a really good mental state. So we'll see him tomorrow and then he'll plan out what the next couple of weeks look like. But the old on the phone trick as you're walking in when you see the cameras, it's good. But
Well, clearly he's got to be in a better mental frame now than when he was going out, Jack. He's going in for an operation thing and what's going on in my life. He's got through the operation. He's been given the all clear, I understand. Jordan, he's hoping to play Queen's birthday weekend, which would be a terrific turnaround.
yeah, fantastic turnaround. And I suppose first and foremost it's his health, and we've been told that is really good. So now it's just about getting back and training, because he wouldn't have done much over the past 2 weeks. So it's about that match condition, getting back training, being back out with the guys. May take some time.
So just before we get to the nitty-gritty, when you hear tonight that Alex Fasolo's taking leave from footy, and he's not the only one, but they are sort of still confronting moments, I think.
They are, and look, it's certainly, you never want to see anybody in any sort of profession have to take time away from what they love to do due to mental health. And unfortunately, I just think it's becoming more prevalent, not only in football, but in society. And you think about the demographic of footballers, or professional footballers that are under media spotlight. They are men and women that are 18 to 30 years of age, and they're on social media and they react to things. And unfortunately, society shows us, and stats are showing us, that mental health is becoming a serious issue in society, and we'd be oblivious to think that if it's happening in AFL.
Right, I want to get into your head. The media and I and Jared and all the media have been talking about Kurt Tippett. Overpaid, underperformed, not doing enough. Do you think the media goes too far in describing his performance? Do we have to be wary of what his mindset would be? How are we supposed to know what his mindset is in that regard? I mean, is that an issue, you think, or not?
Oh, look, I think it's there's obviously it depends. My biggest bugbear about the media is when they commentate about people. So if you get ex-footballers commentating on people's lifestyle, when they have, in my opinion, they don't have any right to commentate on people's lifestyle. They're there to commentate on their footballing. So in regards to Kurt, if you're commentating that he's not producing what they would say he was worth, and it's probably fair, but there is an extremely fine line, and for any journalist out there, it's probably a case of just ringing the club and finding out how much impact you are having on the people.
That's true, and clubs do talk to media people about things. But like, you might be carrying an injury for 5 weeks, and we say, Lewis is old, he's slow, he's gone. And then when it's all over, the club says, yeah, he was carrying a calf for 5 weeks. They never tell us that information, but they are starting to with mental health.
Yeah, and I think that's where football clubs and football environments have really improved, especially over the time that I've been there, that players now feel okay to come out and say, hey, put my hand up, I've got some issues that I need to deal with, I need to step away from the game. And not one player at Collingwood would look at him differently. In fact, they would support that, whereas I think back in the day, a player who was going through that mental illness or the mental stress would just try and deal with it himself, and that's when you get the unfortunate of suicide and problems down the track, whereas football environments now are really accepting of these players. There's more stress on the player than there ever has been before. You've got commentary.
What is the stress? What is it? Stress of performance from within, or is it the external examination?
I think probably the external examination more so than the performance inside the four walls. I mean, players these days read everything, unfortunately, and young players are on social media the whole day. So they read the good comments, the bad comments, and everything in between. That has no doubt had an effect on players and their mental health.
All right, the on-field, how was the Alice?
It was good. The biggest ground I've ever played on. It was, but beautiful, beautiful ground, and we were in and out. We didn't stay around for too long, but yeah, it was a game of two halves. We were in the game early on, but it was just probably the polish that we lacked. Second half, we really had control of the game and put some scoreboard pressure on, which was nice.
All right. Saturday night was a rollicking good affair to watch.
Yeah.
How do you go during a match when you're missing chances and then you have to?
Well, do you miss another shot of goal, Jack?
I missed two easy ones.
I'm sitting there looking, Jack. Well, look at the ball drop. Well, how's your ball drop going?
That one went through.
That was a goal.
Yeah, I don't, bad. Bad.
This one goes through.
Because that was the ball drop. You dropped it awkward, didn't you?
Just dropped it inside a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a little bit windy. I'm not going to blame that, but...
Then why bring it up?
I'm just saying it was.
The wind doesn't take effect at the G.
Yeah, no, I just dropped them inside, so...
Seriously, how do you feel? How do you feel? Because it's a big game, mate.
I'm a bit frustrated, but that's part of just footy, I think. So you're not going to kick them all, and then I felt like I probably repaid the team a little bit with that last goal in a pretty critical moment. So, yeah, it was a good win. We played pretty well, I think, and we probably just needed to tidy up a few little areas, such as the goal kicking and getting a little bit more from our defence into offence. So they're the things that we'll work on for this week.
Can I ask you something that's not on the agenda? I haven't just spoken anything about it. Players are now running around, for some reason, rubbing opposition players' heads. I reckon that would infuriate the person who's getting his head rubbed. What do you think about that?
Oh, I'm not a big fan of it. Yeah, I think it's... I don't know. It's not a great look for me, and I think they may be doing it because of they can't physically probably respond as much as what because of the.
That would never ever happen 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So there, Josh Green. I don't know Josh Green. I don't know him. But I've argued quite strongly that he pulled out of that contest. He gets given the ball by the umpire when he's not in the contest, and then he walks back and starts rubbing Jaden Short's hair. I said, please, come on. Is that... Am I making a big issue of this, or is that not very classy?
That's a no for me for that one, I reckon.
What do you reckon, Jordan?
I don't like it. I don't like it, and you're right. One gave up on the contest. The umpire still has to make the call.
Yeah.
I would like players to play it through to the end, whether it be on the boundary line, goal line, wherever it may be. Don't ever give up.
Where were you? You would have been down the ground,
yeah.
So you wouldn't have seen the gap. What was your reaction?
I was running at the umpire to yell at him, the one in the middle. I just couldn't believe it. It was like I understand the rule, but in the heat of the moment, I thought Shorty was stiff. Yeah.
So what were you saying to the? Usually down the ground we're working out what are you doing to defend. I wish we could go down the ground and watch you run into the central umpire.
Yeah, I understand why there's a space between Green and Shorty, but to give up on the contest like Green's done, and a lot of people say that's a smart way of doing it, but
do you think it's smart?
How is Jade?
Do you think it's smart?
I think that's a tactic. I don't know. It's smart because they got a goal out of it, but how is Jaden Short supposed to know that the pressure that was 20 metres ago right on his
Not
hammer,
20 metres, 1.5 seconds ago.
How is he supposed to know that he's not there?
Sorry, that's the first time I've seen that. I don't think he gave up on the contest that much. I don't think he changed his pace. That was just the gap towards the goal. So maybe I was being a little bit harsh on him, and that was just a bad call.
So it's been ticked off by the umpires department. They say it is the harshest interpretation, but they'll live with that. They're comfortable with that. Do you think that was the essence of what was brought in at the start of the year, to be harsh? Or do you think that's a bit too far?
I don't know. I just think, how are you supposed to... Like, what other options he got? Like, he doesn't got eyes in the back of his head. He was quicker than Green, was able to get back to defend it on the goal line. The ball stopped a metre out. He's got a guy 2 metres away who could possibly dive and slide a boot in there and kick it through.
Kick it off the ground. He put his body between the opposition and the ball.
I can see why the umpires paid it. There is a small gap there, but it's borderline for mine.
And then the punches, as we all dive for cover. Was the opportunity missed to rub the punches out, or were the fines enough to back up the crackdown?
Yeah, it probably wasn't the week to do it because you knew there was going to be spotlight on it. I think looking at that incident, I think a fine is enough. I mean, there was nothing happened to the player. He didn't go down. But you do tread a fine line if you're going to do that action. If that was a little bit lower and it got him right in the spot, he's down, he's winded, you do take a little bit of a risk. But I think, on its merits, nothing happened to Brewsty. A fine was probably the right call.
Have you had to think through this, like not clenching your fists on the field from here on?
Yeah, I mean, if you do that action, you do leave yourself open to being reported. In this case, it was a fine. So I think it's the action that they want to rub out. I think Jonesy was just lucky that he didn't get him in the wrong spot.
I suspect that you won't throw another punch again in your career for 2 reasons. What you did, what happened, you let yourself down and the team down, you have for 3 weeks. And looking at that, you'll say it's nothing, but the imagery of throwing a punch, it's no longer acceptable, I reckon.
Yeah, and I understand that side of the story as well. I'm not going to sit here and say there'll be never any punches thrown like that ever. I mean, we never really condone boxing, do we? It's a pretty violent sport. I know we're never.
But you can't compare boxing to football.
We're never going to get to that. But that's for people to sit back and say all the decisions we make on the field. You don't have time to think. A lot of it's reactionary. You're competitive. He was on top of him. You want to get him off. There's so many reasons there. You're not thinking rationally when you're in the heat of battle. It just doesn't happen. And anyone who says they are is kidding themselves.
All right, we'll pick up the conversation next week. Jordan Lewis, Jack Revell, thank you.